All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining our webinar this morning. As you know, we're going to be covering the admin settings and options within Microsoft Teams. So just check that we've got everyone here and everyone working from a presenter point of view. I'm joined as normal by Tony Pearson. Are you there, Tone?
Good morning, everybody.
And Andy Bolton as well. Check Andy's there.
Hi there, good morning.
Excellent. So for those that don't know me, I'm sure you do by now because you've probably sat on multiple ones of these webinars. I'm Phil Denham, so I'm definitely today, when it gets into the technical side of things, on the intro in and outro inside of what we're doing. But Andy's going to lead today's session. So I think we've introed Andy a few times before on this, but Andy looks after all of the internal IT for HPP and Cameron, the group. So Andy's been instrumental in rolling out Teams for us and obviously all the setup of that. We started the process within our group probably about 12 to 18 months ago, so we've had a while to plan this. I think one of the things we want to cover today, and one of the reasons why today is so important, is that for many businesses the rollout of Teams happened very quickly. Obviously, when people had to work from home all of a sudden, it was in some respect rushed, and I'm sure you guys are aware that most projects of any kind of software or IT focus tend to be well planned out and have structure and kind of a big plan around them. Tony's going to kind of keep an eye on the Q&A, so if you've got questions, use the Q&A. Again, if you've been in our sessions before, you'll know how that works. If you've not, there's a little kind of button, Q&A button. I think the icon's like a little speech bubble with a question mark in it. Firing questions there. We'll pick up as many as we can. You can fire them in whenever you like throughout the session. We tend to pick them up at the end just because that's a bit easier to work with, but Tony can fire back responses as we go if he knows the answer to them. Okay, I'll just put on my normal screen just in case anyone can't hear us at the moment. See if you can, it's pretty irrelevant, but just for those people that are signed in and maybe didn't realise we had started. Okay, so as I mentioned, the whole point of today is all about the fact that this has been rolled out quickly, which means that for many businesses, they are using kind of the default settings of Microsoft Teams, which may be fine, but today's about making you aware of what you can do with the software, what settings can be kind of customized, and also some advice and best practice around how we're using it and what we're doing. And again, if you've got questions around that, use the Q&A. There is a decent amount of thought process that needs to go into Microsoft Teams and how you want it to work, but you might not know what's available. So again, today, just even being able to see those options and see those settings, hopefully we give some ideas and some questions around what you want to do and how you're gonna ultimately use it in your business, which by looks of things now looks like it's here to stay. Although we don't know how long this home working is going to continue, the chances are Teams has embedded itself in a lot of businesses very well now, and they can see huge benefits on it. A lot of the questions and answers we've had in the previous sessions are around things like, oh, this button's missing, or I've tried to invite this person to a team. So we're going to cover all that kind of stuff just to make sure you either know what's available. So if we look after your setup, you can ask us to change things, or if you look after your setup yourself and your admin yourself, then you can make those changes. So it's a pretty simple agenda today. Andy's going to give a bit of an admin overview of what's there, how we get there, and what's there. But ultimately, it's going to be a live demonstration. So Andy's going to show you through some of those key areas. And like I say, we'll finish up with questions. So, and we've said an hour. I don't think we probably won't be an hour today, but we'll see how the questions go. So if you've got any, we've got plenty of time for them today, I would have thought. Right. Okay, Andy, did you want to take over the screen and take over the talking?
Yeah, thank you very much, Phil. Just give me 2 seconds to see if I can actually share this properly. Okay. Now, hopefully that is showing up for everyone now.
Yeah, that seems to be working, Andy.
Brilliant. So as Phil was saying, we're basically going to do a bit of an admin overview, mainly going to be focused around the admin within the Teams admin center itself. We're not going to be doing anything advanced like PowerShell or going into any settings in Teams, because we've covered most of those already in previous webinars. So to start with, I'm going to be going over the guests and external access. So that's basically granting external users access to your Teams. So when we're talking about guests, it's more around individual sort of external users, and you're inviting them via their email address and giving them access to resources within a individual team. And then external access is known as sort of federation services, where you grant in users to basically talk on a one-to-one basis in meetings and chats. And obviously that's quite a very distinct difference between both of those. So as a tenant admin, you can actually choose between enabling external access, guest access, or you can just enable both of them if you want. There are limitations with just enabling external access. So we do tend to say if you do want all the external people to access your teams, then enable both of them, and it gives your users the ability to and the flexibility of using both. So let's start by enabling the guest access and external access permission. So first thing you need to obviously, as I said before, it needs to be in the Microsoft Teams Admin Center. So to get to these settings, we need to go down to the org-wide settings. As you can see, there's two options here. There's external access and guests. So we're just going to start with the external access. Right, excellent. So as you see, we've got it enabled in our tenancy. So the couple of options you've got available is, so obviously users can communicate with other Skype for Business and Teams users. So all this does, it basically allows your users internally to invite users to one-to-one chats and other people that's on Skype for Business. Fairly self-explanatory on there, so you can invite them to meetings and share your screen, etc. with them. Now the second option here is obviously users can communicate with Skype users. So these are people on in the commercial sort of the generic Skype. So you can obviously invite people that are home users and do one-to-one chats with them, share your screen, etc. with them as you normally would. It's mainly around the VoIP element on there, so you can just talk to people that's on normal Skype. And that's it. There is a couple of things you can limit on here. So as you can see down the bottom here, there's an add domain button. Now if you just click that, it basically comes up with an option to allow or block a domain. So this will allow you, if you actually have a domain in there, it will then limit, so the external users can only be from this domain. So it's really good if you know, all right, well, we've got 10 or 15 business partners that we specifically work with. We only want our users to be able to one-to-one call those specific users. We don't want them talking to home users or anything like that. We'll just limit it to these ones. So you just add those in the allowed list and you're good to go. Or if you know, all right, well, these ones are competitive, we don't really want our staff potentially leaking any information to them, we'll put them in the block list so we can't talk to them. So it's fairly straightforward on the external access side. As I was saying, it is just for more one-to-one chats and meetings. Now the next section is obviously guest access. So we'll just jump over into there. See if there. So the top option, fairly self-explanatory, allow guest access to Teams. So that's either on or off. Fairly straightforward on there. It will obviously, it is a global setting, so if it is on for one person, it's on for everyone. So you do need to obviously keep that in mind. So the next option we've got is obviously making private calls. So making the private calls, if that's on, it basically allows users to make peer-to-peer calls. It allows guests to do that as well. So any guests that you've got in a team, so if you invite a user to a team using an email, it allows them to actually call your users internally using obviously the VoIP system, and if you've got the phone system enabled on there as well, and you've assigned guests phone number, they can also make calls that way as well. So if you scroll down a little bit here, we'll get to the other options. So then the other ones we've got is meetings. So allow IP video, fairly straightforward on there. It basically allows users to have share their webcam over the internet on IP. And then the important thing is the screen sharing mode. So if we just click this little drop down, we've got a couple of options here. So basically this allows your users and obviously the guests as well to have different levels of sharing their own screen. So as you see now, I'm actually sharing my full screen here. So that's basically called entire screen in there. Or you can actually limit it to single application or disable it. This will be very specific to your organization, whether you want your users to be able to share what they're actually working on their actual desktops with external users or not, other people like guests in Teams. Obviously, you can tweak that there, and that's the options that are available for you. And then you've got the other option here is allow meet now. So that was that little button that's at the top of a team or a channel that when you click it, it basically invites everyone into a little mini meeting. And this just enables it for guests to be able to do that as well, which is quite useful, especially if you are dealing with third-party companies. Then you need to be able to just quickly gather everyone together that's on a project, click the meet now button, and everyone's invited, and you can go ahead and chat. Let's scroll down a bit more, and then we get down to messaging. So these options are quite important that you do make sure you do get them right. As you see, there's a couple of important ones here that we've got disabled as well. So the first one is obviously edit sent messages. So this allows a guest user to be able to edit their own messages that they've sent to anybody within a private chat and a channel, and obviously a post on the actual team itself. So we don't really see a problem with doing this. It does obviously allow people to correct any mistakes they've put on there, and this is obviously all logged as well in the back end, so you can do searches if a chat's been edited and you need to see what it is. Now the one we have stopped people changing is the delete sent messages. This obviously stops people deleting a message for everyone in a team, which is obviously quite important for guests. So we can see if there's any relevant information, or if you're doing obviously searches and making sure that information is not being deleted off the chat. And then obviously the third option there is chat. So can this user actually see chat? So can they even do messages and stuff within the team? So that's the chat tab that's available in the team. Can the guests use that? And then the fourth one there is use Giphies. So that's the fun little GIFs and icons that you get. Now, obviously, that's normally perfectly fine when you're dealing within your organization because you've got a bit of a closer relationship. But when you're inviting third-party people into your organization, you probably want to turn Giphies off. Same with the memes and stickers, just to keep your chat relevant to what you're actually trying to deal with on the projects or the teams. Then the final option there is allow immersive reader. So what this is, it basically puts little captions of what anyone's saying. So if you're on a VoIP call, for example, it'll caption everything that's going on. So if you can't quite understand them, it'll caption it into your language as well. So it's obviously got auto translate built into there. So can third-party people, can they use that? So it's fairly straightforward. It's normally a yes on that one. So we'll have to turn that on. And that's it around obviously external and guest access. It's fairly straightforward on there, just making sure you've got the right options enabled. Like I say, it's very important to make sure you've just got like potentially the delete sent messages is turned off, so people can't delete anything, and then keeping the random Giphies and the memes under control. And if you do want to enable those, obviously try and make sure it's in strict mode just to limit what type of content can be actually posted. Now, the next things we're going to be going through now that we know how to enable external and guest access is the general policies within Teams. So that's like your messaging policies, your meeting policies, and your app policies. Now, we won't be going through every single policy here. I'll try and limit what I'm actually going through to make it a bit easier so you're not receiving tons and tons of information. So the first thing, obviously, how do you apply policies to users? So the policies basically work on if the user doesn't have a policy assigned, then we're going to use the global organization-wide default policy. So it'll always fall back to that default policy if it's available, unless you've got a policy assigned to a user. So it's really, really easy to assign a policy to a user. First thing, obviously, in the Teams admin, go to the Users tab, and then you just need to basically select a user that you want to edit. So I'm just going to select a person here. And we're going to go to edit settings. Now, the important thing with this is if you've got a policy, you think, all right, well, I need to assign this to 50 users. You can go in there, you can basically select multiple users in here. You can obviously click the little tick here and it's going to select everyone. So you can edit every single user in your tenancy or multiple users. There's also filters over on the side that you can filter specific searches to make it a bit easier to find people. So we're just going to click edit settings on here and hopefully it'll load up. And there we go. So you can see there is quite a lot of different policies that you can assign to people. So we'll only be going over a couple of these. I don't actually want to go through every single one because it will take us over time. But we'll be going over basically the meeting, the messaging, and the app setup policies. So to assign a policy to a user or to multiple users, click the little drop down, choose the policy you've actually created, and click apply. It's that easy. Now, obviously, these policies are ones that are listed in the policies tab. So I'll go through how to create those policies now. So the first one we're going to start with is messaging policies. So you can see that it's literally one of the root menu options. It's just messaging policies. Now we've actually got two here. I'll just go through the general sort of default policy on there. We'll go through what's available and then potentially what you need to secure to help make your organization a bit safer. So a lot of these options are fairly self-explanatory, but I'll go through each one anyway, just to obviously make sure everyone knows what's going on. Now, messaging policy, obviously, it says owners can delete the sent messages. So the first option is can the person who made a message delete it, on or off? It's very situational whether you actually do want to do this. We've actually on our side, obviously we've got it on, and then you can limit it per team. So if you're doing one-to-one chats, that's not a massive problem. You just delete a message, because as we said, everything is logged anyway in the back end, so it's not a huge issue. It just sort of deletes it out of that particular chat. But in teams themselves, so like say you're dealing with a project, you've got other information that's relevant to a team, you probably want to turn that off so people aren't deleting relevant information. Again, it's delete sent messages. That's if that individual user can delete a sent message. So obviously owners is everyone who owns a team, and the other one is obviously deleting messages that that person sends. Then edit sent messages, fairly self-explanatory again. Can the person who sent a message edit their message? And then the next option here is read receipts. So this is the same as you get on basically on WhatsApp. So you get a little marker saying has someone read this message. By default, it is turned on for everyone. You do get a couple of options. You can obviously turn it off, or you can set it to user controlled. So user can go into Teams and edit that option themselves and say, actually, I do want read receipts for all these messages. I want to know if someone's actually read my message, and you can just allow the users to control that. I'd probably say just turn that on for everyone. It does make it a life a bit easier when you do have that forced on, because then you can see if your message is getting read or not. Okay, so the next option here is chat. Fairly self-explanatory. Can the user get access to the chat tab and perform chat functions within Teams? So this obviously is limited to chat specifically. So if you've actually got a team and there's posts and chat within that team, they can still access that area. But within the actual chat tab, they won't be able to do one-to-one chats or chat to people if you turn that off. So it's always important to potentially either turn that off if you want it more limited, so users can only communicate within a team, or if you actually just want to keep it on for everyone, so people can just communicate as they would do normally with Skype for Business. And then the next couple of options is similar to what we saw on the guest access, is about Giphies, memes and stickers. As I was saying, it's probably more reasonable to have these on for general usage, because people are going to be using them. It's just a fun content. It brings a bit of life to chat, but obviously keeping that content rating to moderate so that the people don't post ridiculous things. Just a bit of control, but obviously people can post these things to keep chat alive and keep it a bit fun. Especially the younger generation, they'll understand that these things they're quite interesting to just pop up these things in chat when you're having a conversation. And then the next option there, if we go down, is allow URL previews. So what this option does, when you post a URL into chat, into a message, it'll come up with like a little preview of the page. So it'll just have a little logo. So say you're posting HP store, it'll come up with a little picture of HP, and then the brief top part of the message of what the actual website has got. So it's just like a little preview. So if you see something in a chat and you're like, oh, someone's posted a URL, you can have a little brief look at it, like, oh, well, that's not relevant to me, I can leave that. Now, obviously, it doesn't work with every single URL you post on there. Some websites, the way they're written, it can't pull it through, but it will try in sort of a best endeavors and try and give a little preview of what's on that URL for you. And then the next one is translate messages. Again, fairly self-explanatory. If you've got your language set to a specific value, it will sort of try and auto-translate the messages in there, so you can actually see what's going on and read it obviously in your language. And then the next one, again, allow immersive reader, exactly the same as I said previously, where it will like caption any chats that's going on. So if you're in a sort of VoIP chat, it'll come up there and it'll translate and put little captions on for people. Okay, so the next one there we've got is send urgent messages using priority notifications. Now, what this actually does, it allows people to basically mark their message as a priority, and it will keep notifying the user that's had the message sent to them every 2 minutes for a period of 20 minutes, or until the message has actually been marked as read by that person. So it's a good way of just keep trying to ping someone, basically say, look, I really need to speak to you, I've sent you this message, I need you to look at this. So it's quite good if for people maybe on a help desk, you send them a message, oh, I've got so and so on the phone, they really need to speak to you, they've got a system down. You can send them this message, it'll just keep pinging them every 2 minutes until they either read the message and then they've seen it, or obviously, like I said, that after that 20-minute mark, which then if they're still not read it, and then they're probably not at the desk. I'll see that actual message as well. It does work on mobile as well. So if you do set it as a priority, if someone does have Teams on their mobile, it will just keep pinging it on the mobile as well. So the next thing is creating voice messages, which you've probably already seen on WhatsApp, where you can just basically record a little voice message and then put it into the chat. It's really useful if you can't articulate something in words, or like by typing it, you just want to throw something out there really quick, just put it in a voice message, bam, you're done. Especially if you're on a mobile phone, it's a lot easier than having to type with your thumbs and everything like that. You just record a quick voice message, it's thrown into the chat, everyone can listen to it. Okay, so the next thing, obviously on mobile devices, display favorite channels above recent chats. That on mobile devices, it kind of forces your favorite channels to the top. Now, you don't have much screen real estate on a mobile, so it is disabled by default. You can obviously enable this, but I'd probably say just on a mobile, just have this option disabled, because like I say, you don't have much real estate available, and you want to be able to get to the people you were talking to most recently quickly. So it will be easier just to obviously leave it off for now, unless it is a specific requirement that you only want favorites to always be at the top. But you do need to think these are global settings and they will affect everyone, unless you actually have individual policies that you're assigning to specifically users. For example, like management, you set their policy, they always use mobiles, we know they do that, and they want the favorites at the top. All right, we'll make an individual policy for those guys with this enabled. And again, the next option is obviously remove users from group chats. So the thing about this is when you actually invite, say, 5-6 people to a chat, you're all chatting away about something, you're on VoIP, you're doing a VoIP chat and everything like that. If you have this turned off, it means that you can't just then remove a user from the group and carry on with your chat without that person being available in the chat. Where you'll lose the chat history, because what that'll do, it'll actually create a new mini chat. So every single time you kick someone out, it'll make another little chat just for that group of people. Whereas if you've got this turned on, it allows you to kick that person out, or that person leaves the chat, all the chat history stays there and everything stays the same as it was before. And that's all the options in the messaging policy. It's fairly straightforward. It's just sort of getting your head around some of them that don't really make sense of what they actually do. Now, the next thing we're going to jump into is meeting policies. So meeting policies, again, fairly straightforward to get to. Drop down the meetings option, and then we've got meetings policies. So we've actually got quite a few in there. These are actually all default policies that all have been created. I'm not going to go through any of the other ones. We'll just, again, go through the global organization-wide default policy. So exactly the same, just click it when you want to edit, and you get a nice big list of what's available now. So let's start from the very top on the general. So allow meet now in channels, exactly the same as on the messaging. If you're in a channel, that's within a team, you've got a channel open, you can click Meet Now, and it gives you the ability to basically bring everyone into a chat. But this is more on a channel basis, whereas on the other one, it was the Meet Now button in the top right, I think it is. When you're in the chat options, you can click Meet Now and it allows you to invite people. Well, this one is just specifically for channels. Allow Outlook add-in. I know there are quite a few people that have had issues with their add-in not working properly. Make sure this option is turned on. And as I said before, the global policy is the default one. It will apply this over all the other ones unless there's one specifically assigned to you. So obviously check your user, make sure that it's turned on within the global policy, and also check your user and see if you've got any other policies assigned to you around meeting policies. So again, we suggested have this turned on because the Outlook add-in is really, really useful. Allow channel meeting scheduling. So again, going into a channel, can you arrange a scheduled meeting within this channel? So that's basically you scheduling the meeting and then you're inviting everyone in that channel. You probably fine leaving that on. It's really, really good for, like you said, managing projects, teams. So if you've got a team meeting, you know everyone in that channel's part of that team anyway. Invite all the people. And then allow scheduling private meetings, very similar sort of thing, but private meetings are specific people. So, and obviously on private channels, it's only going to be specific people within that channel. So fairly straightforward. And obviously if you set it as private, people can't see it within your calendar. They'll just say sort of private meeting in there, just to keep it secure. So again, leave that on. It's perfectly fine to have that there. And the next one we've got is audio and video. Again, these are meetings policies, so when you're having a meeting with someone, so allow transcription. So if we just have a quick look on that on there, so obviously turning transcription on or off, which I'll just turn that off, which is like the same as bringing up those captions, as I was saying before. So bringing up captions, so if you're on VoIP, it'll basically show you what's going on, and it translates it into sort of a text message, so you can see you don't have to have audio on, and if your audio is having a bit of a problem, you can see what's going on there. Allow cloud recording, so basically this is recording a meeting, individual meeting into stream, so have that on or off. You probably better having that on, so it allows people to then record meetings, especially if you're having quite an important meeting, again, about projects. Maybe there's a big issue that a customer's having and you need to record what's going on in there. It's always good to keep that on. Allow IP video. Again, fairly self-explanatory. It allows you to have your webcam and share what's going on the video on there. And then the media bit rate. So this is how much data is taken up by the video and the audio. So you see that, so it's quite a high value there. Now, there is a bit of extra details on there about what you can actually limit it to. So obviously the minimum value is 30k. You do need to be careful with obviously increasing this value, although it will make the quality of the audio and the video clearer. If you don't have a decent internet connection, you could potentially cause tearing on the video or bad audio where it'll break up quite badly. So you just need to be really, really careful changing the media bitrate. And again, these are global settings. If you change it, it will change it for everyone if you change it on the global policy. Now, if we go down to content sharing, so again, very similar to what the guest options are available, but this is in individual meetings that you have it on one-to-one or one-to-many. What do you want to do? So screen sharing mode. You got the exact same options as you do in the guest. So share the entire screen, single application, or disabled. Again, you probably want entire screen. This is individuals and users within your company. So you got to trust them to be able to share information, especially in these sort of times. Being able to share your screen is a very, very valuable resource to have, just to be able to do exactly like what we're doing now. I'm just sharing my screen with you guys, and it helps massively to be able to show information and sort of display what's happening. So allow participants to give or request control. So what this does is basically when you're sharing your screen, you can actually grant someone access to your screen or to your computer so they can actually control it. So that's quite good if someone say, all right, I'm just sharing an Excel sheet with you that's on my machine. It's in my OneDrive, so I'm just going to share it with you. Okay, just have a quick look at this, and then you can actually share your screen, and that person can go and make edits. They can change something like, oh, did you see this? Or why don't you make this change, and that'll work. Instead of having to tell you, they can tell you and show you it at the same time, because you're giving them access and remote control to that. This does work with guests as well. You'll see in the bottom part. So it is really useful feature to have. But on the security side of things, you can obviously share and give control to other people. So that's very dependent on your organization, whether you do want that on or off. Again, it is on by default, so you would have to turn that off for everyone if you did want to turn it off. So the next couple are obviously allow PowerPoint sharing. So this is obviously sharing your PowerPoint slides individually, just to make it so you're sharing the actual full PowerPoint slide decks. On or off, fairly simple. Allow whiteboard. Again, it's on or off. In meetings with the whiteboard, you do need at least 3 people to allow, actually enable the whiteboard feature. If you're on a one-to-one, you can actually add that whiteboard in there. It doesn't work at the moment. I think it's more of a limitation around what the current load that's on Teams at the moment. So they're not allowing whiteboard just on one-to-one chats. And then allow shared notes is basically you can have notes within a meeting. You can obviously share those notes with people. Again, just leave that on. It's not going to cause any problems. You can just obviously share notes with people. Right, the next option here is obviously participants and guests. These are people who are joining your meeting and guests that you've invited to the meeting. So this is potentially external people. So what can people do on there? So let anonymous people start a meeting. So if we just click that, it's fairly straightforward. So you can turn it on or off. So if anyone hasn't authenticated, so they've obviously dialed in using their phone, can they start a meeting? Now, by default, I believe this is off. We may have turned this off. It is dangerous to ever allow people that are not authenticated to basically start a meeting. It's always important just make sure you know who's invited, and you make sure that that person is that person, just to make sure everything is nice and safe on there. So I'd suggest to keep that turned off. Oh. And then ultimately admit people. So what this actually means is inviting people to a meeting. So if you've got a external person, so if you see everyone in an external federation, so if someone's trying to join a meeting before you're already in the meeting, so say I organize a meeting with 20 people, and those 20 people, they can, as long as they're within the organization, if this setting's on, they can join that meeting before I do. So I may be a couple of minutes late. I'm like, oh, sorry guys, I'm running late. And they can all join the meeting and start the meeting without you, if you've got that enabled. Or you can set it so obviously that's everyone in the organization, or everyone in the organization and federated organizations. So that's people that you've invited externally to be part of this meeting. They could join it without you obviously being in that meeting, which is not ideal in some scenarios, especially like live meetings that you want to do a presentation, so you want to bring something up on the screen first before people are in the meeting, especially for external people on like projects, or if you're trying to do a meeting with them to show them all the latest release of some content. It's always best to try and keep it to just your organization, so you know, oh, I trust all these people, I work with them, they can join the meeting, but federated users will have to be allowed in past the lobby, and they'll basically just sit on a little waiting screen until they're allowed into the meeting. Again, allow dial-in users to bypass the lobby. These are users that are basically using the phone. So if they're dialing in using the phone, they'll auto get added. Again, you probably actually want this turned off. It is on by default, so turn that off, so they'll just sit in the lobby, they'll just have like hold music, and they'll have to wait until someone allows them into the meeting. And then the next one, obviously allow meet now in private meetings. So if you're having a private meeting, it just means you can, if you click meet now, it'll basically do the one-to-one meeting and bring video and audio, etc. And so you can have a meet now situation on there when you're in private meetings. It's perfectly fine to leave that on. It's not a massive problem. And then the last one there is obviously enable live captions. So that's very similar to the other options on there. It is disabled by default, but you can override it if you're organizing the meeting. So this is so external people can do captions on what's being said in the meeting. So similar, if obviously again, if you're on VoIP, it'll transcribe all that information and put little captions on the screen so they know what's going on. And then the last option here is obviously loud chat in meetings. Fairly self-explanatory. If you start a meeting up, if you just want to share your screen and you don't want anyone to be able to do any sort of extra communication or anything like that on the chat side of things, because you know you're going to be inviting third parties, you know you're going to be doing all these extra things, you can turn that off. It's just basically enabled to disable. It's fairly straightforward. You probably better leaving that on because it is a lot easier, because if someone's having a problem with even seeing the video, they've got no audio, they could just basically send a little chat saying, oh, I can't see what's going on, can you help? So it's always good to potentially keep that chat on there. So that's everything in the meetings policies. Again, you can probably see there's like meeting settings, there's live event policies. We're not going to jump into those in this. I'm just now going to jump over into the app settings so we can see what's going on in there. So to get to that, basically we're just going to go to Teams apps. We're just going to go to set up policies. Give it a second to load, and it's very similar to the other one. So global organization wide default. So this actual option here, so as you see the app options is what apps are available to users and what are pinned within the organization. So you see I've got a couple of different ones pinned for everyone in our organization. So we've got activity, chat, teams, communities, which is Yammer, calendar and files. So the good thing about that, you can actually reorder them. As you see, by default, there's normally calls in there as well. Obviously, we don't use the phone system, so I've removed that for people because there's no point having it in there. It's basically getting the best out of what's available in the teams. Now, these settings, they do take about 24 hours to apply, very similar to the rest of the policies as well. So if you turn anything on or off, it will take about 24 hours to be 100% applied due to the current load on the Teams servers. So to move things around, we're simply selecting something, click down, move up, very, very simple, up and down. And then we can actually add additional apps to this by just literally clicking add apps and searching for something. So I don't know if it'll come up with, yes, this is already selected in there. So this is actually all of the apps that are available within the Teams app directory. So that's basically going into Teams. Let me see if we can potentially bring that up. Let's see. So bringing that up on the screen here. So these are basically all the different apps that are available on Teams. So you can basically do a search for any of these. It's like BrainBot, for example, Soapbox, and add them as a little app link on the side here. So obviously you see these are the global settings that we've got available, and you can add it so it's available for people. So they've got a quick link to it, and anything that's added in that quick link / pinned area is automatically installed for people. So if a lot of these apps, you have to basically go in and manually install them for people, like communities, for example. It's not there by default, but if you do add it as a pinned app, it'll auto install it for the user and add it in. Now, if you make a sub policy, so if we just go back out of here, you see there's like a group app policy here. If you make a sub policy like this, it doesn't actually auto install the app currently. They are working on making that happen, but currently this is from last week. I don't know if it still is the case, but it doesn't auto install the application. It just allows it to be auto pinned. So if you do want an application, you want to roll it out to everyone, make sure you put it in the global policy in there to make sure it's auto installed. Now, the good thing about it also, we can also upload custom applications. This allows people to write their own application and just plug it straight into Teams. So if you've got like a common application that you know, all right, well, we've got a works control system that all our staff use, well, you can get that third party to write an app that basically sits in Teams, and it's just, they can click it, it's on the side, there's my works control app, click it, it'll come up on your right hand side. However they've written that application, it could just be a web page that pops up straight away within the Teams window, and the app's available there. So it's really, really useful for obviously adding the whole ecosystem of how a user works in an individual pane of glass like Teams is. So you've got your chat, you've got your Yammer, you've got your applications you use every day, everything's available there on the left hand side, just clicking it and your applications are available really, really easily. And that's pretty much it on the straightforward on the app side. Obviously you can allow user pin in there, which is just a little tick box, which is, I believe it's on by default. Let's make sure. Yeah, it's on by default, that. So it just basically allows the users to, if they've installed their own application, so again, from that big list of apps that are available, if they've installed that app, they could just then pin that and it'll add it into the bottom, and they can sort of move their own apps around as well. So if they've got a really important, like, oh, I use this app more than I use the chat within Teams, I'm going to put that right at the top. They can move that and pin things for themselves to make it a bit easier for them to access information. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in the webinar so far. Obviously, we've gone through quite a few different policies. As you saw from looking at the users list there is a lot of different policies available. So if you do want more information around other admin areas, what everything kind of does, because I know some things can be a bit confusing how they work, we're perfectly fine to set up a direct consultation with you. Just get back to Phil and he'll be able to go through that with you. So I'm all done on the live demo and everything, so I'll pass it over to Phil to go over the Q&A.
Thanks, Andy. Right, let me just stick the screen back on just so we can go to a screen.
I've just got a couple of things to add on the back of that as well. So thanks very much for that, Andy. As you can see, there's a lot of information in there. There's a lot of settings, and that's growing constantly. So it's worth always keeping an eye on that admin console. Just a couple of things that I think are updates since we did our last Teams webinar. So Andy touched on it there regarding the community side of things. But that's a great new app that came out last week. It's called Communities, but basically it allows you to plug Yammer straight into your Teams tenancy, makes it much easier for everybody to access Yammer, and actually it's a much nicer look and feel than it is using it through the web browser. So anyone that's using Yammer, you can plug that straight in using that Communities app, as Andy showed you there. Either individually or just do it through your tenancy and roll it out to everyone, but it does make it a lot nicer for people to use. The other bit of Yammer news, Teams news, is that by the end of this month, so hopefully by the end of this week, Microsoft will have 9 screens on Teams. So at the moment you only get the 4 screens if you're in a video call. They are trying to catch up Zoom quite rapidly, and the news is by the end of this week there should be 9 screens available, and I think that's going up to 32 very shortly as well. So it just gives you that added bit of functionality when you're in those conferences, not to be limited to 4. So I just wanted to add those in so everybody was aware that there was some changes and some changes coming.
Cool, thanks, Tane. I think we've only had one question in so far. I think just a clarification on some of your terminology there, Andy, which was when you were talking about organisation, does that mean the tenancy, or is there a difference there in how that's dealt with?
It kind of depends which section we were talking about, but normally it does mean the full tenancy is in your organisation, so that'll be your tenancy individually. The settings are global for everyone in your tenancy, yeah.
Cool. Okay, we haven't got any more questions as of yet. So just while people are thinking of them, I just wanted to bring up something that we're actually launching today, which is a QuickStart Pack for Microsoft Teams. So I know some of the people on this this webinar are technical anyway, and you may go away and be able to implement everything that Andy's talked about. But as we mentioned right at the beginning, a lot of what's been going on in Microsoft Teams has really been kind of rushed because people had to very quickly roll it out across organizations because all of a sudden people were working from home. So what we've done is we've put together a pack to help businesses who want to roll this out now and kind of either redeploy, if you like, or deploy it better than they have done at this stage, or maybe you haven't even got round to doing this properly at all and it gives you a start. So this is a quick start pack for any business. So it will be an initial consultation. I think I've agreed with Tony this morning that he's going to be able to be available for them for any of our customers. So if you're one of our existing customers, that'll be with Tony, and obviously probably Andy and probably one of our account managers as well. That's going to be talking through ultimately what you're trying to achieve. So there's more to this than just the IT setup. It potentially is going to involve some of the kind of key decision makers in your business, the owners or the directors or the managers, to say, how do we want this to work, and get buy-in across the board. All of that admin setup and config will be included in that to tie in with that consultation, as well as the governance of who can do what and how you're going to control what's going in within your team setup. The team structure, if you sat on our session where we talked about how to use the actual Teams functionality, that's really key to think about, really key to plan, and how that's rolled out as well. Because one of the things we mentioned was don't go in too fast, don't go in with tons and tons of teams because it just gets too confusing. So talking about the setup and the configuration of that. The dashboard side of things as well, which we've not really touched on massively, have we? But Tone, you're quite a big fan of the dashboard side.
Yeah, we did touch on this briefly, but like you said, Phil, we didn't spend a lot of time on it. But it's configuring a team for teams within your organisation where they can just log in a morning and they have all the applications and all the functionality they need in one pane of glass in one place. So it makes it a lot nicer and a lot easier for people to do their day-to-day job, and it makes it great for rolling and onboarding new people because they've just got one place to go. They don't have to find all that information out.
Yeah, and then the third-party application, which Andy touched on, so regarding which, assuming they're supported, of course, with the Microsoft Teams, setting them up and bringing them into the relevant parts of Microsoft Teams, link into your file and data storage, which could be SharePoint if you're using SharePoint already, and making sure that's all set up and ready to go. And then what we'll do as well is we'll run and record an end user training session specifically for your business. So once we've done all this configuration, we'll basically run it for your users so they can see exactly how it's been set up and exactly how it's being used, and we're going to chuck in the support for that for 1 year as well. Obviously there's some limitations around size on this, of size of the business, but that's going to cover the vast majority of people that we work with already, and that's available for 1495. Obviously, as you can imagine, with IT at the moment, things are still fairly busy from an installations point of view. People are making changes and moving with their IT systems and getting things sorted. So as with everything at the moment, it's a bit of a first come first serve basis. So the sooner you can get in, the better. And as it says at the bottom there, obviously this doesn't include licensing, so you may already have those licenses, but if you need to add more, that may be some extra cost as well. Okay, so unless we've got any last minute questions, which I don't think we have any more coming through.
No, I can't see any, Phil.
Then I think that's it for today. So in terms of next webinars and things like that, we think, unless anyone's got any more ideas, we have covered all of the key areas that we're probably now going to cover on Microsoft Teams, unless anything new comes up. So just as a recap, we covered a kind of working from home, which was aimed at end users. We covered creating and setting up teams. We did some favorite features, some tips and tricks. We did the Microsoft 365 Business Voice, and then we've done today on the admin section as well. Obviously, if you've got other areas of the software that you'd like us to cover in webinars, then please let us know. But all of the recordings are up on our website, so hppsystems.co.uk/events or cameron.co.uk/events. They're all there available to rewatch and share and do whatever you want to do with them, basically. And then I think we're going to be moving on to some new webinars. Obviously security I know is a big focus, and I think that's going to be where we head in the coming weeks. So thank you very much for your time this morning. And we will send out the recording of today's webinar as soon as it's available, which normally takes about an hour or so, and we'll let you know of any future events that we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, guys.